closely at this 1154 map by the Arab geographer al-Idrisi. Trying to spot the Indian subcontinent might be confusing. By modern standards, it is completely upside down. South India sits at the top. Sri Lanka hovers above it, labeled in Arabic script. Now look at this map, drawn by a French cartographer in 1720. The shape of the subcontinent is instantly recognizable. You can trace the detailed coastal lines that European sailors relied on for their trade voyages. The 600-year gap between these two images records a transformation in the geographical data flowing into mapmakers' hands. The world they were documenting had physically changed. People often treat the 1,000 years between 700 and 1750 CE as a dark age, a stagnant historical waiting room where nothing of consequence occurred. The documents left behind prove otherwise. When we examine the records exactly as they were created, we find a society in a state of rapid and continuous change. Borders were moving, and the language people used to describe the world was morphing alongside them. Take the word Hindustan. In the 13th century, a Persian historian named Minhaj-e-Siraj used that term as a political boundary. He was referring only to the lands of Punjab, Haryana, and the territory between the Ganga and Yamuna rivers, the specific areas controlled by the Delhi Sultanate. 3 centuries later, the poet Babur used the exact same word to describe something different. For him, Hindustan encompassed the geography, the native fauna, and the diverse cultures spanning the entire subcontinent. Even a simple concept like foreigner carried a different weight. It did not mean a person from another nation. It meant a stranger who wandered into your village, someone outside of your immediate culture or caste. This is a historical manuscript. Before the printing press, every record was copied by hand. Scribes often struggled to read older handwriting, so they guessed. They altered words and sentences. Over centuries, these compounding errors drifted, until newer texts looked completely different from the originals. These shifting definitions and mutating manuscripts indicate that the subcontinent was expanding faster than its own records could keep up. That expansion was highly visible on the ground. Across the region, workers systematically cleared vast tracts of ancient forests to make way for agriculture. As the tree lines receded, the nomadic groups and forest dwellers who lived there were pushed out of their traditional habitats. Many laid down roots, picked up plows, and transitioned into peasant farmers. These new farmers planted crops using technologies arriving along expanding trade routes. The Persian wheel allowed them to pull water from deep wells, scaling up their irrigation efforts to feed a growing population. Ships arriving from distant shores introduced entirely unfamiliar crops into the local diet, like the potato, the yellow corn, and red chilies. As agricultural wealth grew and professions became highly specialized, the old social order fractured. People organized themselves into jatis or subcastes, which were ranked by background and occupation, and governed by their own local councils. The spiritual landscape was also under construction. Royalty poured wealth into massive temple complexes to honor new gods, securing political influence for the priestly class. Meanwhile, ordinary people turned to the bhakti movement, a personal devotion that bypassed priests entirely. At the same time, merchants and migrants carried the teachings of the Quran into the subcontinent, adding complex new theological and legal systems to the existing culture. This convergence of new technology, foreign crops, and competing faiths restructured the subcontinent's social landscape. The fragmented regions were pulling together into a single complex ecosystem. The years between 700 and 1750 were not a dormant phase. The people living through them were not waiting for the modern era to arrive. They were driving an era of immense wealth and innovation, erecting structures that blended multiple architectural traditions into new forms. Those upside-down maps, the shifting definitions of words, and scratch-outs in the scribes' manuscripts are the surviving evidence of a civilization iterating on itself in real time. History is active. It requires us to track the shifting perspectives of the people who lived through these changes. The identity of the Indian subcontinent has never been set in stone. It remains a living tapestry, continually incorporating new threads to redefine exactly what it is.